It's mostly agreed upon by South Park fans that the first 3 seasons don't hold up to the rest of the show. Of course, there will always be people who disagree with that, but even the show's creators themselves claim this era of South Park to be subpar. There is, however, one episode that stands out from the rest. A diamond in the rough, if you will. One episode that was so good, it made it into the top 15 fan favorite list, and is also the only episode from this era to crack IMDb's top 35 episodes. You can't have South Park without a little bit of controversy, so you will probably not be surprised to hear that this episode was banned by an entire country. Today, we'll be exploring South Park Season 3 episode, Chinpokomon. What made this episode so good? Why exactly was it banned in Japan? Is Pokemon a Japanese government plan to brainwash kids?
The American government lies to you. Join the fight for Japanese supremacy of the world.
Okay, probably not, but it is a hilarious concept. All jokes aside, this episode came out at the perfect time, right in the middle of the era known as PokeMania. Okay, what the hell is PokeMania? As we know, Japan has a knack for creating legendary media, usually in the form of animation and video games. However, Pokemon was something different, something truly special. When Pokemon was exported to the rest of the world in 1998, it immediately became a global phenomenon. PokeMania is considered the peak years of its explosion in popularity, running from 1998 until around the end of 2002. Your boy here got to experience the latter years of this. The first video game I ever owned was Pokemon Yellow. Yes, I am old enough to remember that you couldn't even play it at night unless you had one of these bad boys. This was the peak of gaming, lads. And yeah, I was basically the South Park kids during this time, completely brainwashed by this franchise, which makes me feel qualified to analyze this episode. Before we get started, do me a solid and check if you're subscribed. I always thought YouTubers were BSing about the 90% of people aren't subscribed analytic, but then I started making videos, and I realized it's true. Anyways, let's get started. The episode begins with Eric Cartman watching TV and eating a light 2,000 calorie snack.
Now, Kenny, these are my spicy hot Louisiana baked chicken tenders.
He's watching the new Japanese TV show titled Chinpokomon. We obviously know this is a parody of Pokemon, but what exactly does this translate to? Well, Chinpoko in Japanese means penis, and mon is short for monsters. So it's basically penis monsters as opposed to pocket monsters, which was the original name of the franchise. It wasn't until it was exported that they made it Pokemon for the rest of the world. When you watch South Park, you'll notice Japanese a lot more than other languages, and it's usually correct Japanese as well. Sometimes it's been changed for comedic effect, but the accuracy compared to other languages is because Trey Parker actually double majored in film and Japanese, while Matt's majors were film and mathematics, because Trey needed...
Because we needed you to do the bookkeeping.
Not long after the show ends, he sees an ad for Chinpokomon dolls. He's able to easily manipulate his mom to take him to the store to buy some.
But, Mom, I have to get a Chinpokomon doll before everybody else does, because then I'll be cool.
His urgency to get the dolls is so that he can be the first one at school to show off his new toys. But upon arriving there, Cartman is angered to see that everyone else also saw the ad and even got there before him. Stan shows off his new collection, including the Chinpokomon shoe. This might seem like the most exaggerated joke ever about how sometimes Game Freak can lack creativity with Pokemon, but over the years they have had ideas about as ridiculous as a shoe. From ice cream cones, cogwheels, keychains. Yeah, these are all real Pokemon. When their moms ask about the origins of Chinpokomon, they're told it's some new big thing from Japan. He goes on to say that the Japanese really know how to market to children. I tried to find some old Japanese commercials on Pokemon, and the earliest one I found from the original game's release was...
Monster 全部で150種類.
Strange, to say the least. It didn't really feel like a kid's commercial at all, but then again, I'm not a marketing expert, so we'll leave it at that. The next day at the bus stop, Cartman tries to get Kenny to trade his penguin doll, claiming that it's his favorite. You know, trading is actually a massive part of the success of Pokemon. You couldn't even fully complete a Pokemon game unless you were able to trade, as the versions locked certain Pokemon from ever being found, basically forcing you to either have friends who played or to buy both copies of a generation. Oh yeah, and if you wanted to trade, you also had to buy an attachment that doesn't come with the game. Get owned, kid. This is the most blatantly obvious form of manipulation that Game Freak still uses today, as there is always going to be people who buy both versions. Think about how much extra money they have made by getting people to buy both copies of basically the same game. Oh yeah, and on top of that, let's repackage the same game a year later, add maybe 10% more content, and call it something shinier. Yeah, these are things I didn't pay much attention to as a kid, but as an adult, you realize they milked every possible dollar they could.
The most genius thing ever, actually. Yeah. If you want to steal money from kids.
Kyle arrives at the bus stop to show off his sweet new cyborg Bill doll. The boys give him a hard time and laugh, saying that it's all about Chinpokomon now. He then rushes home to beg his parents for money to buy Chinpokomon when his dad gives him a pretty good speech about how he shouldn't blindly follow fads.
In fact, you can make an even stronger statement by saying to your peers, I'm not going to be a part of this fad.
Kyle explains how in the real world, it doesn't work like that.
In the real world, I can either get a Chinpokomon, or I can be the only kid without one, which singles me out and causes the other kids to make fun of me and kick my ass.
Yeah, Kyle can be pretty smart sometimes. After buying his new doll, the store owner says he doesn't understand what kids see in these things, and Kyle agrees, showing that he really only cares about keeping with the fads to fit in. Before the store owner leaves, he starts messing with one of the toys, and he hears,
Down with America and destroy the capitalist American government.
oh yeah, now we're getting to some plot. Kyle is eager to show off his new toy, but the boys seem to no longer care because they're now into the Chinpokomon video games, showing that there are even fads within a fad. The video game they're playing has an interesting moment.
I've got to buy them all, so first I'd better go to Hawaii and visit Pearl Harbor.
So yeah, this is reason number one on why Japan had this episode banned.
This has to be some kind of plot to take Pearl Harbor again, because you know they want it.
The toy store owner takes the Chinpokomon doll to headquarters to complain about its anti-American sayings. And we meet for the first time, Emperor Hirohito. Example number 2 of why this episode was banned. They decided to use the name of the famous emperor who ruled from 1926 until his death in 1989.
Oh, you must have very big penis.
What if I told you the penis-sized joke was inspired by a real-life experience that Matt and Trey had?
And we were out at a bar one night, and he was saying, oh, American penis so big. And we were just like, yeah, okay, cool. And he was like, my penis this smooth.
Another cool thing about this is that Hirohito was voiced by Junichi Nishimura, a college roommate of Trey Parker's who actually was learning English while Trey was learning Japanese. Trey also had him narrate one of his first animated shorts that he made in college called American History, thinking that someone with a strong Japanese accent talking about American history was pretty funny.
Thank you for stopping by with your gargantuan penis. Dame.
He realizes people are onto his plan, and we get shown that Chinpokomon toys are indeed chipped. We are then revealed with his true intentions.
The time has come. We will take Pearl Harbor.
The next scene shows Randy and Sharon watching Chinpokomon, trying to decide if it's appropriate for children to watch. You know, I actually had a friend in elementary school whose parents didn't let him play or watch Pokemon because it challenged the powers of God. I'm amazed he didn't grow up to become a serial killer with parents like that. The conclusion they come to is that,
Oh, it's not like it's vulgar or violent.
No, but it's incredibly stupid, and that can be worse on a child's mind than any vulgarity or violence.
Kyle shows up with his new controller for the Chinpokomon games. But of course, the boys have moved on from that. Oh yeah, Kenny had a seizure playing the game. That's why his eyes look like that. That reminds me, it's likely that this is inspired by a real-life event that actually happened. In 1997, Japan was airing a new episode of the Pokemon anime. 20 minutes into the episode, Pikachu stops missiles with his Thunderbolt attack, resulting in an explosion that rapidly flashes red and blue lights. A lot of viewers reported blurred vision, headaches, dizziness, nausea. Some of them even had seizures. Over 600 Japanese children were taken to hospitals. Many of them recovered on the way though. But anyways, they go on to say that the new cool thing is the Chinpokomon camp that is being held to teach trainers how to defeat the evil power.
Putting on a special camp to show all the Chinpoko masters how to destroy the evil power.
Their parents have a meeting to decide if they're gonna let their kids attend this Chinpokomon camp. The conclusion they come to is the more they forbid their kids to play Chinpokomon, the more it'll make them want to do it. So they decide to just let Chinpokomon run its course, with the idea that Chinpokomon is just a fad. This is actually how Matt and Trey felt, and something they were completely wrong about. In the real world, Pokemon is the highest grossing media franchise of all time. It's funny because it's not even remotely just for kids anymore. Pokemon has an audience of pretty much all ages. Sure, the explosion of popularity was 95% children and preteens back in the day, but those kids have grown up, and plenty of them still love Pokemon, which I think is pretty sick. I mean, we have full-grown adults making a living off of playing Pokemon now. That's no shade, by the way. If I knew this was possible at age 8, I would have definitely pursued this career path. The kids show up to the Chinpokomon camp very excited, and they are finally asked the question, what is the evil power?
The evil power is the United States government!
Ah.
We then get a propaganda speech from Hirohito that none of the kids even understand. But the brainwashing has begun.
It's Nissan-shi!
It's me, Sanchi!
We get a hilarious scene of the kids in the classroom all speaking Japanese and acting like anime characters.
Ooh, Gasen-san sabushi da na.
What did he say?
He said, Gasen-san sabushi da na.
Not so fun fact, this is the last episode where Mary Kay Bergman voiced Wendy Testaburger. She tragically passed away a little over a week after this episode aired. Rest in peace to a legend. The adults of South Park have had enough and go to see the mayor.
I tell you, Mayor, these Japanese are trying to change our American children somehow.
The mayor actually brought Hirohito and his right hand to explain themselves.
You Americans have such humongous bulbous penis.
Well, I guess that's true.
Except, instead of explaining things, they once again use their flattery to compliment the American penis size.
You see, Japanese penis so small.
So small.
Huh. Maybe I'm Japanese. The mayor comes up with an idea, which is to try and get the kids hooked on a new fad so they will stop being so obsessed with Chinpokomon. They're taken to a market research lab to be tested on new toys that they might like. Fun fact, this is the first time in South Park that Butters is shown with the 4 main boys all at once. He was pretty much just a background character in Season 1, 2, and most of Season 3. He was introduced as Butters just 3 episodes before this one, and you can tell they try to sneak him in more and more throughout Season 3 and 4, until he eventually becomes a full-blown main character. Anyways, the boys are shown some commercials to see what they respond well to. For some reason, early South Park loved to use real-world footage for commercials. I'd like to give you a reason why, but not even Matt or Trey know.
It doesn't even really matter to the show, and the fact that we would spend a bunch of time going out and doing film shoots for that little bit of a joke that you could animate, I don't know why we would do that.
I'm glad they did though, because Alabama Man is pretty cool.
Alabama Man!
The children are then seen parading around town in a military-like formation. Sharon attempts to intervene, but they respond once more with their flattery.
A very large penis.
I love how throughout this episode, whenever they say this, the men are just so happy. The women, however, see right through it, and Sharon calls him out.
He doesn't really have a small penis. Oh.
As they're marching away, Sharon has another idea. But first, we see Bill Clinton talking about his schlong.
I spoke with Mr. Hirohito this morning, and he assured me that I have a very large penis.
Just as all the kids are about to be sent on a mission to bomb Pearl Harbor, their parents arrive and start pretending to like Chinpokomon. And if parents begin to find something cool, it probably means it's no longer cool anymore.
Come on, Eric, let's try to battle your rooster with my Donkeytron.
No, that's okay, man.
They all start walking away, except for Kyle, who once again is late to the party, and Stan gives him a gay little speech about how it's no longer cool to follow fads.
Yeah, but if I stop now, I'd just be going with the group again. So to be an individual, I have to bomb Pearl Harbor. See ya.
Stan tries again, and this time Kyle is too confused to make a decision, so he just stops, and then Kenny dies. Something I haven't mentioned yet was Nintendo's reaction to this episode. They were pissed. mostly because of the name Chinpokomon relating to genitals. They obviously didn't want their franchise tied to something like that, but legally they could do absolutely nothing about it, which makes it even funnier. There's also no specific reason given for why Japan had this episode pulled, but I think we can make obvious assumptions, such as the constant mentioning of Pearl Harbor, making fun of an iconic emperor. But let's be honest here, we all know the real reason they had this episode pulled.
Nothing. We are very simple people with very small penis.
The idea for this episode pretty much came from the fact that kids at the time were seemingly brainwashed by Pokemon. Matt and Trey thought if Japan really wanted to, they could take over the world with this thing. It's personally one of my favorite episodes from the early seasons. I'm one of those people who don't think South Park really got off the ground until about season 4, and then it finally entered the golden years from season 5 until about 13. Don't get me wrong, I still love all of South Park. I just don't have that deep drive of nostalgia for it like other people who really love the first 3 seasons. Let me know what you guys think of this episode or your experiences with Pokemon. Don't forget to drop a like if you made it to this point, and I'll see you guys in the next video.